This Bitcoin OG is calling for 220,000 Bitcoin soon. But today I'm going to be lining out why we might see that and why gold is potentially showing us the signs and why that might not only be the only reason why we see Bitcoin absolutely rip and roar here, even though we are seeing a couple months of sideways chop. Now, of course, the Bitcoin OG that we're talking about today is Max Kaiser, who tweeted this out the other day that the US dollar has exited the room. Once again, something is broken. And you could see the US dollar strength absolutely plummet and fall off a cliff. Then, on top of that, what else are we seeing? I lined it out here at the beginning. We're seeing gold prices fly absolutely off the charts. Now, it's interesting, right? What do we usually say about gold? That gold leads the inflationary pressures, right? If there is a lot of signs of, say, money printing or, say, inflation not being over, gold is usually that flight to safety, at least for the boomer generation. Now we are starting to see the Zoomers and the younger crowd start to move towards Bitcoin for this sort of flight to safety, so to speak. So it's interesting. We see gold absolutely take off. And look, I'm not a chart bro necessarily, but it seems like, the way that Bitcoin is lining up here, we generally start to see the quote unquote BART pattern, right? We see Bitcoin go sideways chop for quite some time. And then we start to see Bitcoin potentially explode for many different reasons, right? It's not just the overall, Bitcoin 4-year cycles, the halving periods, and what have you. I think it's for a few different reasons. Now, what did we also see today? We saw the Fed, Kashkari, say the Fed has the tools to provide more liquidity. Now, history repeats itself, right? What do you guys remember? Not too long ago here, the famous 60-minute interview that we had from the Fed's Kashkari. Now, I'll refresh you guys a little bit if you don't recall.
Done this past week as essentially flooding the system with money.
Yes, exactly.
And there's no end to your ability to do that.
There is no end to our ability to do that.
So that just lines it out right there, that they have been utilizing all of the possible tools and they don't want to start anytime soon, right? Or they don't want to stop anytime soon. They have all of the tools necessary. They will continue to do it until they see an end in sight. And the interesting thing about that Kashkari interview on 60 seconds or 60 minutes, is that he continued to say what he learned from 2008 is that they weren't aggressive enough. So it leads to the question, did they learn from 2020 that they were too aggressive? Maybe not, but it seems like Kashkari is always looking back and saying that they would rather act fast and they would rather be more dramatic. So as friend of the program wrote, Larry Lepard, he wrote a full book on it, The Potential Big Print. And I think it's because of the things that we're seeing here, right? Kashkari, this is from 2020, but it leads to the fact that he said they're using the tools aggressively and he doesn't see negative rates coming, but it is a potential, right? Why are we even discussing the potential of negative interest rates for the global reserve currency? This is absolute banana land, folks. We could see some things absolutely blow off the top. And as Max Kaiser pointed out here, look at what gold is doing. It's generally a leading indicator of the confidence of the overall market. So people have been saying that we've lost confidence in the US dollar, US assets. That's why they needed the tariffs to come off. But in reality, I think it's people losing faith in the US dollar as the global reserve currency because of what we've seen previously, right? We've seen gold absolutely take off. We see the dollar plummeting. And so what did we see as a result of that? not too long ago. Everybody's favorite chart in Bitcoin. This is why we Bitcoin right here is seeing that giant spike in 2020 of massive amounts of QE. And the Fed has already said in years past, right, that they're using their tools aggressively. They haven't used all the tools in the tool shed. They will continue to use these tools, right? Some of these tools are QE. He's even reminding us here recently. This is from earlier today, saying, hey, they have the tools to provide more liquidity. And then what happens when assets, particularly Bitcoin, get more liquidity, right? We saw Bitcoin absolutely plummet in 2020, going down to about $4,000, then shooting up all the way to 70. Look, now that was when 60% of the money supply was injected into the market. We saw Bitcoin go from nearly a 10x, right? About an 8x from that point on. So right now, if we're sitting here at about $80,000, right? This $2,200 exit liquidity, or the $220,000 prediction by Max Kaiser might be a little bit bearish, because we could see a much more dramatic increase, because that's only a 4x increase that we're seeing here. But I mean, it's ideal conditions for Bitcoin, like we're lining out, right? Most people are going to absolutely shoot the liquidity into Bitcoin. Many of you always know the classic, how much does a stimulus check look like right now? If you were to put that 1,200 or 1,400, whatever it was, into Bitcoin, and we've seen that increase over time, and I believe that's already 10x. It's already worth over $11,000. My computer's in a weird spot, so I'll check that maybe and bring that up on a following live stream. But regardless, what we're seeing is that this dollar absolutely plummeting, falling off a cliff, the combination of that, the combination of somewhat coming down in the market like we are seeing currently, absolutely falling down, and then the potential of starting to skyrocket and shoot up, right? The liquidity that the Fed injects into the market generally goes directly into these risk off assets, right? So I think that this is something that we should be looking at as an extremely bullish sign, because when history repeats itself, it leaves clues, right? It leaves clues about what they are going to do. Now, the Fed is coming out and saying all of these things. We've seen this happen in 2020. 60% of the money supply printed over a very, very short period of time. And I think that we're going to continue to see this skyrocket. You guys love it when I say the sky rockets in flight. Boo! Afternoon delight. I mean, it's only not even 11 o'clock here in Mexico where I'm at currently. But you guys get the point here, right? 82,000 Bitcoin. They were saying not too long ago that everything is over. Pack it up. We saw Bitcoin get down to the low 70s. Now we're seeing it start to skyrocket up, right? We're starting to see it shoot. And that is where we could see some sort of crazy things going. Now, the difference between 2020 and now is obviously we have the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, right? So the United States pumping Bitcoin bags would actually be theoretically pumping their own, and they could be the only country in the world, because we have the global reserve currency, print money to buy Bitcoin. And that would be potentially one of the craziest things we could ever see happen, right? So I'm not counting that out, though, because of, like I said, they have been evaluating all of these different aspects in order to combat inflation, right? They have tools to provide more liquidity. So if you're going to get more liquidity, why wouldn't you put it in these different assets, right? I mean, we're getting the tariffs Trump is working with Elon to do the Doge to cut down government spending. There's a lot of tactics that they are using right now in order to try to bring down that government spending. Bringing down that government spending is step one, right? The next step is trying to strengthen the dollar over time, which is kind of, interesting that they're utilizing these tactics, because there is just, like I said, so many different ways that they could potentially start to, get this economy a little bit more strong, right? And there's a lot of different ways that you can strengthen your own personal economy, right? Your own personal bag, so to speak. Part of the reason, or part of the ways you can do that, I believe, is by buying Bitcoin and holding it in cold storage. Now, the psychopaths over at the Bitcoin well will give you tokens every single time you buy Bitcoin in order to win more Bitcoin. And that win could be potentially up to 1 million sats. So today, I'm going to give you guys some of my own personal wishing well tokens in order to help you guys stack and continually stack over time. So get your Lightning wallets ready, because as Dingo Booty in the chat is saying, Bitcoin is the way. We've been, McLovin's in here saying, we've been on a bull run since Jan 2023. He's been stacking it and chilling ever since. And then we got Midwest Picker saying the state of Florida is buying 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. We are investing in the internet in the early 90s, 1,000%. So I'm going to give you guys some sats so you could invest in the internet right now just by simply coming to a Green Candle live stream. So there you go. There you have it, folks. 210 sats straight to you, straight to your dome piece. Go ahead and scoop those up. If you get a notification that they're unavailable, that means somebody else scooped them up right before you could. But regardless, if you miss this chance, you could go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. Once you go there, you can sign up, enter your email there, and then you can earn the opportunity. You will get some wishing well tokens immediately when you use that link. So not only when you sign up, you use this link, you will get wishing well tokens. Every time you buy, you get wishing well tokens as well. And then on top of that, they've got the best OTC desk in the business. They have competitive rates. You can go there and get white glove service and get your Bitcoin sent directly to cold storage, so you don't have to worry about any type of counterparty risk. And that's why I've also partnered with Bitbox. You could go to bitbox.swiss/greencandle. I recommend getting the Bitbox, the Bitcoin only edition. And then you can get your seed phrase. You can get it, buy your Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, store it using a Bitbox, because we are seeing the potential. And then you use promo code Green Candle, for 5% off, because we are seeing this. We're seeing Max Kaiser come out and say $220,000 per Bitcoin is in play. Now, why is he saying that, right? I mean, like I said, we got the signs with Green Candle here. We've got gold skyrocketing up. We've got the US dollar plummeting. We've got the Fed coming out and saying that they have the tools to provide more liquidity. And then, of course, we've got the chart bros even saying here, we've got the room to start running up. So all of this, and we've had the Fed previously say that they are using tools we are using our tools aggressively, but he doesn't see negative rates coming. So what does this aggressive use of tools look like? What does this mean? Well, we saw what this meant in 2020. 60% of the money supply increase in just a very short period of time. So we've got, my goat, all-nighter hider in here, who just got done with a mod job, saying smoke the like Cheech and Chong. I appreciate you always popping in, my friend, because we've seen these tools be used aggressively. Now, what are some more of the tools that we're going to potentially see? We're going to potentially see the Fed lower interest rates. We've been talking about this ad nauseum, that the Fed is going to cut eventually. When they cut, what is going to happen? We generally see all of that liquidity get poured into quote unquote risk on assets. When they get poured into these risk on assets, this is when we start to see things like Bitcoin shoot off. And so this is why it's been a great opportunity to stack, especially with the price action that we're seeing here. A lot of people get worried when they see this. They're like, what are what are we seeing here? Is this going to take off eventually? Right? But I mean, a lot of people have been super negative. Of course, we're seeing Bitcoin shoot up today, 4% on a lot of this news, right? We see gold front run Bitcoin time in and time out, right? So gold is front running Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to start to shoot off because of what we're seeing with gold. I mean, in the past 5 days, 1 month, we've seen gold up 10%. Even look at this as of late, just absolutely shooting off here. So gold absolutely front running Bitcoin. Is gold stealing the Bitcoin bull run? That I don't think so. I think that it is just lining out the signs for what we're seeing, right? Because we are seeing the Fed openly say that they're going to utilize all of their tools for QE. They're saying the quiet parts out loud, folks. We generally do not see them start to say the quiet parts out loud like we are seeing right now. But I think it's interesting, right? It's interesting that we're seeing them start to say that. It's interesting that we're starting to see the Fed really look at how they are conducting themselves. We see the Fed looking at this chart. We see the Fed looking at gold. We see the Fed looking at the US dollar strength absolutely plummeting down, right? So all of these guys, they're starting to see the signs, the writing on the wall that the economy is not as strong as, many seem to believe. And that all comes with, some of these inflationary pressures that we've been dealing with, the tariffs, the trade wars, all of these different aspects that we are seeing now. Now we are seeing gold absolutely front run Bitcoin. And that's where I think Bitcoin is prime to start to run up. And it's not just me saying that. It's not just the hopium green candle coming on here telling you guys, spouting all of this stuff. We've got Bitcoin OGs like Max Kaiser who have been in the game for quite some time saying 220,000 per Bitcoin is in play. And I think that's going to happen sooner than people believe. So, as my man All Nighter Hider always says in the chat, smoke the like Cheech and Chong, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and I'll see you guys all at the next one.